I made a fucking tier list. Fucking cool characters, cool game, and fucking included the EX droids too because I hate myself or something, I guess. Okay. Purple, you gotta be really good with the category and overall. Green is good. Yellow is like C to D tier. And red is like just D tier. You're kind of bad. And black, you just suck and the devs hate you and life hates you. And yeah, that's the color coordination. On to the shit. Instant damage does not just depend on DPS, and it does not just depend on a one-time use damage. Like Holly, her cannonball is pretty decent, but it sucks and she can't use it repeatedly to handle large enemies. And guess what happens when you kill a bunch of large enemies? The other large enemies in the spawn order just spawn next, and you're fucked. So yeah, purple tier we got Coral, EX Coral, even though you fucking suck EX Coral, and Cactus. Cactus's flamethrower puts her above Yoda and EX Yoda, which is that's really where I draw the distinction. Yoda and EX Yoda might deserve to go in that tier very hard to say. Peanut EX2 has very good instant damage, but it's also very aim dependent, very secondary dependent. Can't be used in the exact next wave. Like you can't delete 3 large enemies from one wave and then instantly after that delete them again. It takes a few seconds, but still really fucking good damage overall and really fucking good damage bonus, which is why they're in the green tier. And Shitcake right over here. Shitcake, yeah, Shitcake sucks and is great sometimes too, and sucks at being great and is great at sucking. And she's just a fucking crackhead. Ignore her. Her damage is based like she's the only one that does not have a damage cap. It just depends how many enemies are right next to her, and usually that's the damage. Those are the enemies you care about damaging quickly because they're the ones that are about to kill you. And bad instant damage we have down here are not bad necessarily because the droids overall, there's only like a 25% difference in the time between the fastest droid being EX Yoda's campaign time of a 39 and the slowest droid being a unrefined 52 with Shitcake. Sorry, Shiitake stands. It just hurts playing her so much. I have to insult her. That's how it works. If you bring me pain, you get insulted, even if I love you, like I love Shitcake. See, middle tier for instant damage. These are still pretty good and usable. Like I said, not a huge difference, but still definitely a clear distinction between the ones in green tier and the ones in orange tier right here. And down here, the ones that just suck. Cactus EX takes too long to deal damage, even with their secondary. Shitake EX takes too long to deal damage. Yeah, like everybody here. Auber has so low instant damage. This is like her lowest category. But she's just so good at every fucking different thing that she's still good. And she doesn't care about instant damage. That's what she has upgrades for. And because she's so consistent with upgrades, she can really subvert this weakness. Now, sustained damage, that's repeatedly doing damage overall. This is probably the closest category to sustained DPS, but it actually does depend on how well you can dish out the damage. Coral, I fucking love you. She would go lower, but I'm a fucking Coral stan. And she can do damage pretty well. She can do damage over an area pretty well. But she just has way too many slow levels. Yeah, make your own tier list and put your own stand slightly higher than the rest if you want to. Yeah. Yoda and Yoda EX are the best at sustaining damage. So much damage from the secondary, so much damage from the primary, so many use cases for each, and same for Peanut EX. Holly EX has really good overall sustained damage, but just not purple tier. She can handle whole waves of like 3 or 4 large enemies, but she has to wait like 5 seconds to handle the next wave if they come out immediately one after another. And this whole category, I should say, is geared towards competitive players, and there is a further distinction. That's not a word. But it also depends somewhat on the base campaign. Like, we're not counting the campaign plus. If so, like, Shiitake would go a lot higher, and Holly EX would go a lot lower just because of how many bombs there are in EX. So yeah, campaign, competitiveness, and not necessarily score. Because score depends on too much math, and I don't like math. Let's see, sustained damage. Where the fuck? Yeah, this is where we are. Peanut has middle tier sustained damage. Cactus EX does too. The orange down here is definitely usable, but just not good, I'd say. Usable, still loses time because of it. Now, Auber, even though she has the second lowest DPS in the game, she's still just really good at dealing the damage. So can't really put her lower. C. Lick EX, you suck. Coral EX, you suck even more. Auber EX, I'm not sure where to put Auber EX. Like she's just not as consistent as Auber, but in certain places she's better. So maybe she should go along with Auber, maybe not. But right here, Lemon EX, you just fucking suck. And Shiitake EX, you fucking suck at dealing regular sustained damage and actually hitting with that damage. And Holly, yeah, you don't have damage, Holly. Why do you hate damage? Now, damage radius. Keep in mind this is the radius of the damage and projectiles themselves. And overall, there is somewhat of a way of a consideration of how well they can actually do damage. Like otherwise, Coral and EX Coral would probably be higher in damage radius. Let's see, Holly EX and Yoda, they have the widest damage radius in the game. Holly EX secondary is longer ranged than Yoda's, which is why Holly is the first in purple tier and Yoda is second. We got green tier, we got really good damage radius. Lemon EX, you fucking suck. You're just here because you have a big radius, but you suck. And never use Lemon EX. Just never use Lemon or Lemon EX because they suck. C. Shiitake, you have really good damage radius because of the circle bombs, the spinny twirly bombs, and yeah, you're just fucking good. Auber EX has super huge damage radius, but can't do damage as well as Coral or Auber. And the distinction between Auber and Auber EX can be found in levels where Auber EX sucks at, because she can't handle spread out enemies as well as Auber with the black hole. Still really good though. Peanut EX, super fucking wide damage, but it only comes out in one direction, and it's too hard to use it efficiently. Like, it's still really good, really easy to spam, but in terms of optimization, the damage radius is just not quite up there with Holly and Yoda, and can't really handle enemies surrounding you in a circle. As well, anyway. Yoda EX has since she does, like, this is the weirdest one, her damage comes out in straight fucking lines, but just the fact that she does damage so well, and that she can move from one enemy to the next, killing them sequentially, that's still, like, she still handles spread out enemies and enemies surrounding her fairly well, which is why she's up here, despite shooting in a straight fucking line. You know who else shoots in a straight fucking line and sucks? Yeah, sorry, Shiitake EX, you just suck. And Coral EX, you suck too. At everything. Cactus EX, right here in the red tier, like, yeah, very bad damage radius, loses a bunch of time. And orange, in this orange tier, everybody fucking sucks. Like, some of the orange tiers are good, and some of the orange tiers are, like, really bad, and this is one of them that just fucking sucks. At least halfway down the tier, they suck. Peanut and Lemon have decent damage radius. Peanut has decent overall damage, and it's just decent overall. Cactus has decent damage radius. Lick EX is put there too. Very hard to differentiate this tier right here, but I think they're in the right tier at least. See, range of effective damage. We got up here Cactus EX and Cactus. We got Lick here too. Holly EX, Yoda, and Yoda EX in the green tier. Shiitake EX, even though Shiitake EX sucks so much at everything, her range technically doesn't diminish at all. So she has her specific effective damage range is very long. It doesn't matter how good her effective damage is if it sucks, but she still has a long effective damage for her specific weapons. Lick EX has good range. Her secondary doesn't really help, but her primary is just good at that. 9 through 11, Auber EX, Auber, and Holly have a good range. Hard to differentiate between them. Peanut EX and Lemon have usable range. They're very bad in levels like Relay and Checkpoint, which are range-based, but they're also good in levels like Convection, which is also range-based, but in a different way. So yeah. See here, middle tier. Lemma EX, you fucking suck. Shiitake EX, your effective damage radius, or your effective damage range sucks, but your damage radius is good, which is why they're different categories. Peanut has middle tier range. She would go lower if not for the fact that Coral EX and Coral are just a bottom tier at that. Like, yeah. Still usable though. Like, Coral EX and Coral suck so much at range, yet they're still just as good as Peanut and Lemon in levels like Relay and Checkpoint, or at least in the same ballpark. Secondary spammability. This is how much you can spam it versus how much it risks you using it and how much it interferes with your game plan and your upgrade usage. Like, up at the purple tier, you can spam it as much as you want. It hardly loses any time to spam it. It hardly interferes with your upgrade routing to use it. It's just spam it as much as you fucking want. Close your fucking eyes and spam it. It doesn't matter. You'll do fine. Green tier. C. Peanut EX has a very good, very spammable secondary. But keep in mind, this is geared towards competitiveness and towards already high-level players and high-level gameplay. Just the fact that it is so hard to optimize Peanut EX once you're already a good player with her, it is very hard to save time. That you can spam it and you won't lose as much time as spamming some other worse droids, but you're still going to lose time versus other Peanut EX stands if those exist. Very good down here, just very good. All of these are very spammable. You don't really get punished as much to spam it. Keep in mind, Cactus EX and Lemon EX, even though their secondary is technically very accessible, it doesn't matter. Since it has such a slow discharge time, it sucks. Slower discharge times means less uses of the secondary, and it also means less invulnerability frames from dodging, or from twirling. So yeah, right here, accessibility versus risk, the orange tier. Like, risky doesn't really save a whole bunch of time. Again, Shiitake, literally the most accessible secondary, and also literally the most risky. And look at down here, Coral EX. Very bad accessibility, only 2 shots in it. And Lick EX is right here because she only has a few shots of it, and it isn't that strong. Shiitake EX, she can spam it, and it doesn't risk her as much because she can just run away, which that's why she's here, not with EX Coral. And Peanut, literally 0 risk of dying, but a 100% risk of time loss. Like, never use your secondary if you're a Peanut main. That's just how it works. See, next page. Secondary benefit. This is how much their secondary saves them time throughout the game, with a small weight geared towards how much it interacts with their primary and how well it interacts with their primary. Holly EX. Holly changes from a high 44-minute campaign time to a middle 41-minute campaign time with her EX weapon. So that's like 4 minutes it saves her. Coral has a 42-minute campaign time. Coral EX has like a 47 to 49, so that's like 7 minutes. But that big distinction is also in part because Coral EX's secondary loses time and is the worst weapon in the game, bar none. Which is why, even though Coral saves 7 minutes versus EX Coral, she's not like at the top of purple. But yeah, very good secondary for Coral. Interacts very well with their shotgun. The shotgun fucking sucks as a weapon, as a concept, but it's so fucking fun. See, Yoda EX has a very good secondary. No video evidence of how good she is, though, sadly. Here, you see Yoda right here, very good, purple tier. Yeah, very hard to argue about the purple tier up right here. Auber and Auber EX have a very good secondary. Right? There are many use cases. Very good. C. Shiitake 8 and 9, Shiitake and Cactus. Shiitake has a very good secondary, but she's just a crackhead. Very streaky. Very crackheadish. Lick should probably go lower, but I like Dragonos and he believes in Lick, so I have to believe in him somewhat. Even though it's so hard to use her secondary, and she's just like, Lick is a middle tier. She has middle tier primary, middle tier secondary, and you can't have both a middle tier primary and a middle tier secondary and be good. So, like, even though individually her primary and her secondary are pretty decent weapons, they don't blend well together, and it just, yeah, it's just not that good. Lick is a middle tier droid who has a 44 and probably can't get a 42. Just way too hard to optimize. Lemon, your secondary fucking sucks. It's even worse than, and like, let's see, where the fuck is Holly here? Yeah, did I forget base Holly? What? I forgot base Holly. Oh yeah, number 11 is base Holly. I'm gonna edit that later. But yeah, base Holly goes above Lemon. The cannonball is spammable, but kind of sucks. Holly depends on the cannonball way too much for dealing damage. Upgrade consistency. Basically, droids that need to spam upgrades constantly are ranked lower. Droids that can use their secondary to like save on upgrade uses are ranked higher. Yoda, Holly EX, Coral, Yoda EX, Peanut EX. It doesn't matter what cycle you hit in the early game and at the beginning of each level. Like, it still matters a little bit, but very consistent. They can deal damage without the upgrade, so they're still really good at that. Number 6 through 9, very nice. Fairly consistent. Peanut, Cactus, Auber, and Auber EX are known as the consistency droids. Droids, or some of them. Pretty good. And right here, like Lemon, pretty consistent, but she just doesn't save much time with them. And she just kind of sucks. She very much relies on firepower for long range. Cactus EX, very bad. Can't do instant damage. Needs upgrades to do instant damage. Lemon EX2, very bad. Upgrade consistency. Holly is down here. Maybe she should be ranked higher, but it's just the fact that she needs firepower, and if you lose firepower at any point, you're just fucked. Yeah, these people in the red tier, they rely so much on maintaining firepower. Like, upgrades are their crutch. And down here, Coral EX is the worst. Upgrades don't save her any time, and she also needs to use them constantly, pretty much. Fucking sucks. And Coral and Peanut in these 3 levels suck equally as much as Coral EX at normal levels. But just because of Coral and Peanut's just overall consistency and just being so good throughout the game, you can overlook that. Damage bonus from upgrades. This depends somewhat on how easy it is for them to maintain firepower, and somewhat on how well they can just spam shutdown while still maintaining firepower. Like, in this purple tier, you can fucking spam those fucking upgrades. It doesn't fucking matter. It's just so fucking good. We got the good tier right here. Coral has a good damage bonus from upgrades and is very upgrade consistent. She really can't use shutdown at all, which is hilarious, but just the fact that she can't use 1/3 of the upgrades means she has so much ammo for the other 2, and she uses the other 2 pretty well, which is why she's in the green tier. See, Peanut EX has a really good damage bonus from upgrades. Peanut and Auber are really good too. Yeah. See, pretty easy E tier to understand. Shiitake EX fucking sucks, and so does Coral EX. Maybe Shiitake should join the black tier. See, now this next tier has a very confusing name: Freedom of Movement, aka Margin of Error within Optimal Movement. This is basically like, let's say you're doing IL attempts, and basically how much are you dreading a misplaced upgrade that's in the wrong spot? How much can you move out of the way to save yourself from dying without it impacting your damage? See, at the objective top, we have Auber, who has the greatest freedom of movement in the game, bar none. She can attack from any angle. Like, spawn alignments don't even matter to her. Like, yeah, objectively at the top. Coral and Yoda should probably share the same tier, or the same spot in this tier. They're both very good, and they have different movement options to choose between. They're not they don't have as big of a margin of error for specifically just the movement, but because they do so much damage, uh, it also takes into account their margin of error. Because if you can do a whole bunch of damage, then you don't really need to move out of the way if enemies are about to damage you. And moving, if despite their offense, their specific offensive lines are limited, but they don't even need to take defensive lines, which is why they're up here. And number 4, Holly EX, so much margin of error, so fucking good. Just use Holly EX, she's so fucking good. Use her. Green tier, Cactus has a very unique use cases, very hard to line up for her optimal lines. Cactus is almost never the fastest droid, except in relay and checkpoint, maybe. She has a huge margin of error because there's a small difference between high-level Cactus players and middle-level Cactus players. As I like to say, the only difference between different skill levels of Cactus players is how well they use the secondary, because the primary is so consistent. Holly has a big margin of error for her movement. Her secondary has very specific and very time-dependent uses in some levels. But, like, fuck her secondary anyway. No, kitty, down. Good girl. Let's see, Auber EX. Auber EX has a good margin of error for her movement, too. Let's see, Peanut EX. This is controversial for some people, because she does have a large margin of error for raw movement, but keep in mind, this list is for competitive players and for comparing between other competitive droids and other competitive players. Even though a poorly used EX nut is really good, comparing her to other nut EX players, it is so hard to optimize. It is so hard to save time. She has very specific spots, very specific offensive and defensive lines, and you're punished so much, relatively speaking, for fucking up. This middle tier is again one of the good middle tiers, except for Lemon EX. Just fuck them. And Peanut too. Fuck you for being so anal, Peanut. Why is it so hard to get the Descent world record with you? That took like 50 hours of work from me to get that record. And yeah, you're just fucking anal. And look down here with Lick. Lick, I love you. I love you so much. Why do you suck? Why are you so middle tier? Why are you so great at being decent and so shit at being good? And right here, fucking just the worst. Coral EX, Shiitake EX, and Shiitake. You fucking suck. You all suck. Wait, fucking move back to this page. Favorable spawn manips and alignments. This is literally how much of the game is it easy to use their weapons in, which is why it is literally 1-to-1 ratio with how good you have favorable spawn manips and how fast you are in the campaign. So yeah, I don't really need to talk about this that much. It's just a very related thing to campaign viability, and a better way to phrase it. Favorable spawn manips and alignments. Like some in Centrifuge, it's very easy to manip the spawns where you want them to go. In Assembly, it's very difficult. It's basically just how well you handle the different stages of the game. You get close-up levels and you get long-range levels, and you get mixes of the two. You get some levels where there are large amounts of spread out small enemies. You get some levels where there are mixed amounts of different enemy types, and it just affects them differently. So yeah, difficulty curve, aka ease of improvement once already fairly optimized. Basically, if you're already playing at a high level, this is how easy it is to get a higher score or to get a better time. Which is kind of funny because you're kind of punished for being consistent somewhat. See, Holly EX and Holly, it's very good to learn them at a high level. And it just pretty much depends on upgrades for right here. Holly EX and Holly, it's very easy to become a good player with them. Same thing for Auber and Cactus, I mean. And the middle tier right here, where it's understandable, but it's still pretty difficult. And we have the red tier where it's It's just pretty difficult, pretty dang difficult to learn them. It's a difficult game overall, so this does, like, if it's just measuring how hard it is to learn Assault Android Cactus, the video game, everybody would go into red tier. But it's comparing them, so yeah. And down here, like, I am a Coral stan, and people consider Coral like the hardest or one of the hardest, and people consider Yoda and EX Yoda easy. But again, this is for competitive players, and I have dumped thousands of hours into Coral, and I have dumped hundreds of hours into Yoda, and I progressed so much faster with Coral and so much slower with Yoda and Yoda EX. So fucking hard, despite it being very easy to do well. If you're trying to contend at the top level, Yoda is so fucking hard to optimize. Just so hard. Now, time penalty per death. Almost named this category death penalty, but some places don't have that. I live in fucking America. Coral loses the least time upon death. Time penalty per death depends a lot on instant damage, which is back up here. Fucking, where is it? Instant damage up here, and it also depends on the upgrade categories. Where the fuck were those? Yeah, dying, you have very low damage right after that, and you don't have upgrades. So upgrade consistency and the damage bonus from upgrades and the natural instant damage, those all, basically those three categories combined, you can mathematically find out this other category. Let's see. So yeah, Coral, this top tier, they have very good damage and very consistent upgrade uses and very good upgrade uses. Aber right here, she is the most consistent in upgrades in moving around, freedom of movement, rather. But she just doesn't do a whole bunch of damage, which is why she's not in the purple tier. But she is still pretty good. And you notice there's no red tier. It's just purple, green, orange, and then Coral EX. Actually, I should rename the bottom category to the Coral EX category. Yeah, that's what it's called now, the Coral EX category. Okay, Aber is pretty good. Loses a bunch of time compared to the purple tier, but not as much as others. Aber EX loses more time than Aber because Aber can just when you get back up, there's like a wave of energy that pushes away the droids from you, and Aber has a black hole that can bring them right back to you. Hilariously, while the feature of pushing droids away from you after you get up was meant to help players, at a high level, it just wastes time and sucks. Aber EX loses more time. Peanut loses some time. Yeah, this orange tier, they're kind of bad when comparing to the above tiers, but still not too bad, you know. Except for down here, they just fucking suck. Coral EX, Shiitake EX, and Holly lose so much fucking time from dying. And that's the fucking list. Prologue. Please note some attributes and droids are more or less known or observable than others. The droids Shitcake EX, Aber EX, Lemon EX, Lick EX all have some combination of a lack of total player experience, like EX Lemon, and or confusing and difficult to quantify traits like damage and risk of Shitake's secondary, and the range and AI effect of Aber's secondary. The categories of freedom of movement, damage radius, and favorable spawns are among the most difficult to quantify and concern. Criticism and further testing are welcome. And yeah, that's the list. Thanks for watching.